You might regret that, you know. Bria felt a smile break through her earlier frustration. Good thing I'm not much of a quitter then, she replied, her voice lighter now, the tension easing just a fraction. Don't think I won't call you on that, he said, a hint of mischief returning to his expression. Before she could respond, a loud knock echoed through the kitchen, startling them both. Akil's instincts kicked into overdrive as guard mode activated. Stay back, he warned, looking toward the door with a narrowed gaze. Bria's heart raced, an entirely different kind of energy surging within her now. Did you order pizza? She joked nervously, attempting to mask the rising panic. I didn't order anything, least of all a doorbell disaster, Akil said, his energy shifting, resolve hardening as he moved closer to the entrance, ready for whatever awaited them behind that door. As the rain continued to pour, it felt like the storm was not just outside, but inside them both, a harbinger of danger, but also a promise of what they could achieve together, if only they survived the chaos ahead. Scene 84, Threats in the Shadows. The air was thick with tension, a pulse that quickened but did not quite break as Bria Finch stood before the dusty window of her modest office, allowing the evening light to wash over her. Outside, the streets hummed with life, but inside, a silence reigned, heavy and foreboding. Each tick of the clock echoed through the room, drowning out her thoughts as they spiraled back to him, Akil. His laughter, colorful and contagious, seemed to linger in the corners of her mind, reminding her of the warmth they had shared, but also igniting the flickering doubt that had taken root. Was he truly the man he pretended to be? Just then, the door swung open with a creak, shattering her labyrinth of thoughts. Akil Amari stepped inside, his presence commanding yet familiar, a juxtaposition that stirred a complex array of emotions within her. Hey there, he said, casting her a sideways grin that made her heart leap, even amidst her swirling doubts. Hey, she replied, attempting to mask the weight of her uncertainty with a casual tone. What's the plan? Before he could respond, a distant explosion rattled the windows. Bria's heart seized as the reverberations coursed through the walls, sending her instincts into overdrive. What was that? She asked, her voice a mix of alarm and disbelief. It's probably just the fireworks from the festival nearby, Akil suggested, but his eyes narrowed with concern. No, listen. He held his hand up, shushing her with a flicker of intensity. The boisterous chaos outside dissolved into an eerie hush. A tense stillness enveloped them. Even the sounds of the city had quieted. Bria could hear the soft thud of her heart echoing in her chest. Akil, she began, but the urgency in his gaze silenced her. Stay close, he murmured, moving toward the door, his movements fluid, poised. With a quick glance over his shoulder, he stepped back into the shadow of the hallway. I need you right behind me. She hesitated, the two of them teetering on an edge. Questions hovered like specters. What if danger was lurking just outside? What if this was not merely a harmless festival, but a facade for something far more sinister? Their burgeoning relationship twisted her focus, filled with the richness of their shared moments, yet now fraught with shadows of mistrust. Akil's hand reached out for hers, drawing her closer, and Bria felt the warmth of his skin on hers. It sent a jolt through her, stirring emotions she couldn't fully comprehend. She squeezed back, grounding herself in the known, even as fear danced around the edges of her mind. We can't stay here. It's too quiet, he said, breaking the silence that had lingered too long. We need to find everyone else. The two of them slipped out into the dim corridor. They moved with purpose, careful of the tight space that concealed secrets in every corner. Bria's thoughts raced. Their friends would be at the cafe nearby, huddled together over steaming mugs as they discussed their next moves in this precarious game. But with every step, the gnawing sense of danger clung to her like a second skin. As they reached the cafe, they found it engulfed in a light-hearted argument. Malia, with her vibrant curls bouncing in indignation, faced off against Sam, who gestured animatedly with his hands. I'm telling you, that's where the real action is. You just have to know the right people, he insisted, spinning the tale of their latest hunt for thrills. Action? You mean danger? Honestly, Sam, Piper interjected, rolling her eyes with affection. You're just trying to be the hero again, and it's exhausting. Bria felt a flicker of laughter bubble up inside her, but it faltered as Akil's tense expression kept her tethered to reality. Guys, he interrupted, glancing at her for a moment before his gaze swept through the crowd. This isn't the time. The laughter fell away, replaced by a collective concern. What happened? Malia asked, her eyes wide and shining with disbelief. We heard an explosion and it got too quiet, Akil replied, his tone serious, though the humor that usually danced between them was absent. We think we may have company. Company? Like bad company? Sam quipped, his bravado fading, eyes darting around as the gravity of the situation sank in. Akil nodded, wrenching open the door to the cafe with a stern resolve. We need to get everyone to safety, he urged, the fire in his voice stoking the collective urgency in the room. As Bria watched him, noble yet reckless in his fierceness, she felt a new swell of determination rise within her. This was her fight too. Together, they would face whatever was lurking in the shadows, and she would not back down. You're right, we can't stay here. Bria's voice rang out, resolute, igniting a sense of purpose among their friends. Let's move. And as the tension broke, laughter quietly shadowed their resolve, an unspoken pact threading their destinies together in the dense night, darkness swirling all around them. Scene 85, Testing Limits. The air buzzed with an electricity that matched the tension in Bria's chest. Training at Akil's secluded stronghold was intense. Shadows stretched across the dimly lit gym, emphasizing the urgency of her mission. The faint sound of gravel crunching underfoot mingled with the distant crashing of waves against the shoreline outside, each wave a reminder of the storm that threatened their world. She closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling the aroma of sweat and leather, grounding herself before the upcoming test of her skills. Focus, Bria, Akil's voice cut through the silence, firm yet laced with warmth. He stood poised at the far end of the room, his dark eyes locked onto her, mischief dancing in their depths. He wore a fitted black shirt that hugged his torso, a reminder of the man she kept trying to navigate, a charming but guarded enigma. She nodded, shaking off the doubts that flitted through her mind like errant fireflies. The mission was more than just survival. It was a chance for her to prove herself, to silence the insecurities that whispered she was inadequate. The stakes were higher than ever, and this was the moment to either rise or falter. Let's see what you've got, he called out, adopting a playful tone that hinted at his confidence in her, even when her own felt shaky. With determination propelling her forward, Bria launched herself into the routine, every movement deliberate and powerful. She pushed through a series of self-defense maneuvers, her body responding as much to instinct as to training. Dodging and weaving, she imagined the impending threat of their rival syndicate closing in, a scenario she could only hope to navigate one day if she survived this. Akil circled her, a predator assessing his prey. You need to push harder, Bria. You're holding back. Why? You can do better. I can do this without you breathing down my neck, she shot back, a hint of laughter bubbling up despite the seriousness of their situation. Every fiber of her being wanted to impress him, yet she yearned for that independence as well. The familiar tension between them crackled in the air, pulling taut like a drawn bowstring. Then prove it, he teased, his voice smooth yet commanding, igniting a fire within her. His challenge hung between them, unspoken but palpable. With a sudden burst of energy, Bria launched into a series of rapid combinations, her fists flying through the air with newfound vigor. She felt the weight of Akil's gaze, the intensity pushing her to the edge of her limits. For every knockdown she'd faced emotionally, she channeled that resolve now, unleashing her frustrations in every punch, every kick. Then, just as she began to feel invincible, he stepped forward, capturing her wrists in a graceful but firm hold. You're strong, but strength isn't just physical. Breathing heavily, their faces inches apart, she caught sight of the flecks of blue in his eyes, a depth that pulled at something inside her. The world around them faded into the background, work replaced by an awareness of their shared moment. What do you mean? She asked, aware of the heat between them, tingling just beneath the surface like the first hint of summer rain. Strength is knowing when to fight and when to let go. His voice thrummed low, each word saturated with unspoken promises. The challenge she felt from him morphed, shifting into something more vulnerable, a connection that seemed to rise above their respective pasts and disguises. He released her just slightly, enough that she could step back, but not enough to vanish the electricity in the air. She swallowed, her heart thrumming faster with the intensity of their eye contact. She was on the precipice of something exhilarating, terrifying, and she didn't want to pull away. "Let go? That suggests I'm not in control," Bria replied, a smile teasing the corners of her mouth. "Control can sometimes blind you to what truly matters," he murmured, leaning in just a fraction closer. The distance grew charged with unfulfilled tension. Her breath caught somewhere between anticipation and uncertainty. Time felt suspended. In the silence, the crackle of their bond pulsed between them, a dare, a promise, a question answered only by their lips inches apart, ready to collide. "Bria," he whispered, a call to intimacy that trembled in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Before anything could unravel into a mere touch, she closed the gap, their breaths mingling, an electric spark cascading into their worlds, and then there was darkness, a beautiful fade into the unknown. Scene 86. Journey of the Heart. The air in the dimly lit warehouse hung with tension, the smell of cold metal and dust intertwined like the memories drawing Bria Finch deeper into her thoughts. Shadows stretched across the concrete floor, flickering in sync with the distant hum of the city that never slept. Even as they prepared for the mission ahead, her heart thrummed against her ribcage, echoing a dissonance she found hard to shake. Akil Amari, his presence a blend of charisma and command, sorted through supplies, his brow furrowed in concentration. He moved with the grace of someone who was always a step ahead, able to navigate worlds where danger lurked in every shadow. Yet the playful banter that typically flowed between them was subdued, charged with an undercurrent of unspoken words. Bria took a breath, grounding herself in the moment. "You think we've got everything?" Her voice surprising even her with its steadiness. "Let's see," he said, glancing up, a flicker of amusement lighting his dark eyes. "Survival gear, first aid kit, other assorted chaos-inducing elements." He smirked. What more could a girl want? She couldn't help but respond with a smile, though the weight of her insecurities loomed. "Maybe some assurance that we won't get blown to bits tonight?" His laughter echoed softly off the steel beams above, genuine and warm. "You can always count on me to get you blown away, but not in that way." He winked, but as quickly as the humor surfaced, his gaze turned serious. "You know I won't let anything happen to you, right?" The warmth of his words curled around her like a comforting embrace, and yet doubt nagged at her. Bria stepped closer, her voice a whisper now. "Do you say that because you mean it, or because it sounds good?" Akil paused, the levity draining from his expression. "This isn't just a game for me. If I say I have your back, I mean it." His gaze bore into hers, and in that fleeting moment, vulnerability flickered there, like distant lightning illuminating the sky before a storm. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of discovering something monumental about them, a truth that hovered just out of reach. "I know you're guarded, but this, us, it feels like it's built on sand sometimes. What if it all comes crashing down?" "Then we rebuild," he said, his voice low but resolute, as if the act were simple. The intensity in his dark eyes absorbed her uncertainty, an anchor in the straining tides. Bria stepped even closer, the warmth radiating between them overwhelming her senses. She could hear the distant city, a siren's wail, the roar of a passing vehicle, the murmur of life continuing its relentless march outside the sanctuary of their moment. The mingling aromas of cold metal and faint whiskey drifted in the air. "What if it doesn't crash, Akil?" she said, her heart racing. "What if it's all something we can have? Just what if?" His brow furrowed again, this time in contemplation. "Then we dive in together." A sudden noise echoed through the warehouse, a clatter of metal striking concrete, the unsettling reminder of the dangers lurking beyond their serene bubble. Both of them froze momentarily, instincts sharpening, but the brief disruption faded. In that taut silence, he reached for her, fingers brushing against her palm, a light, electric touch that sent a current racing through her. "With you, Bria, every moment feels like I'm fighting against odds. I can't quite explain it. It's intoxicating and terrifying." "Maybe," she murmured, allowing herself a fragile smile as her fingers intertwined with his, the touch igniting a fire in her core. You should know that I'm not afraid of a little chaos. It's the life I've made it this far without. But the delicate pause held a gravity that made them both breathe the words left unspoken. A part of her wanted to pull away, but she pressed against that instinct. But I do want to be more than just this. Then be here with me, on the edge, Akil said, his voice a low melody that wrapped around her heart. Whatever happens, we face it together. The world outside melted into irrelevance, and with a shared resolve they teetered close, hearts drumming a rhythmic promise. Her breath mingled with his just before the chaos returned. Bria, his voice was a fragile whisper, soaked in urgency. Let's go paint this city red. She met his gaze, standing on a precipice of uncertainty and possibility, and found a sense of peace in the swirling storm. Together, then. In that moment, the connection solidified, a silent vow against the chaos awaiting them, a flicker of hope igniting in the heart of darkness. Scene 87, a daring strategy. The crisp scent of rain-soaked pavement perfumed the air, mingling with the low hum of the nearby traffic. As Bria leaned over the faded map sprawled on the table, her finger tracing the outlines of the rival syndicate's territory. The flickering light from a nearby lamp cast shadows across the group gathered in the cramped, dimly lit room. Akil lingered at the edge, his arms crossed and brow furrowed, a storm brewing in the depth of his dark eyes. It's audacious, he said, the tension in his voice laced with skepticism. You think we can just walk in there? Bria glanced up, her determination shining through. We can't wait for them to come for us. We need to take the fight to them, neutralize the threat before it becomes bigger. This might be our best chance. Her voice held a resolute firmness that resonated with the air thick with anticipation. Nearby, Lena chimed in, gripping her coffee cup tightly as she leaned in. And she's right. If we don't act now, we're vulnerable. Their next move might be fatal. As the arguments unfolded, swirling thicker than the tension in the room, Akil's jaw tightened. Vulnerable? You want to go dancing in the lion's den with a half-baked plan? This isn't a field trip. It's a death wish. Akil's anger hung heavy in the air, as palpable as the tension of the impending storm. He stepped closer, his energy crackling. You're underestimating the danger, Bria. Bria stood firm, meeting his gaze with a fire undeterred. And you're underestimating me. I've been watching them for weeks. I know their weaknesses. I can be their distraction. Distraction? He retorted, bitterness creeping into his tone. You think they'll let you walk away if things go sideways? Their voices escalated, blending with the distant rumble of the storm outside, building a crescendo of raw emotion. Lena glanced between them, sensing the undercurrent of something more profound, something vulnerable, lurking beneath their heated exchange. Look, she said, her voice softer as she intervened. What if we support Bria with backup from the rooftop? She shouldn't go alone, not with their reputation. Backup? Akil shifted, brow arching skeptically. What are we, a band of vigilantes? Maybe we should be, Bria shot back, her tone laced with defiance. But beneath her bravado, there was a flicker of uncertainty. As Akil paced away, hands shoved deep into his pockets, she caught a glimpse of vulnerability moments when he let down his guard. Akil, she called, allowing her voice to soften. He paused, the tension in his shoulders visibly slackening. What? The night we first met, you told me you once fought to save someone you loved, right? Right? What were you willing to risk then? Her words stirred something in him, something he would rather leave buried. The deep lines of worry on his face smoothed out as he turned slightly, vulnerability creeping into his stoic demeanor. I was willing to sacrifice everything. Then let me do the same. Bria's eyes softened, holding his gaze with unyielding resolve. Let me fight for this, for us. In that moment, a quiet understanding blossomed. The argument faded, replaced by a breathless kind of intimacy that drew them closer, the air around them electrified by the weight of their unspoken fears. Akil stepped forward, the anger forgotten as he whispered, You really think this plan will work? You trust me? Trust is dangerous in our world, she admitted, stepping a little closer, cradling his face gently in her palm. But I trust you. Then I guess that's enough, Akil replied slowly, his breath mingling with hers, the space between them cloaked in an intensity previously unexplored, yet entirely familiar. Let's prepare, Bria said, pulling away just enough to collect herself, the resolve in her voice igniting once more. If we're doing this, it's all or nothing. The storm began to rumble louder beyond the thin windows, a fitting backdrop for the tempest of emotions swirling within that cramped space. A storm building not just outside, but within as well. All right then, Lena said, her voice cracking a smile. Looks like we're under new management. As the group huddled together, the outlines of plans emerging amidst laughter and shared needles of anxiety, Akil offered Bria a grin. Just remember, if we get through this, I expect. Lemon meringue pie? She interrupted with a teasing glint in her eyes, her wit returning. He chuckled, eyes sparkling, a fleeting glimpse of joy amid the chaos. No, I was thinking more along the lines of a little gratitude. A celebratory dinner would do. And with laughter softening the edges of their tension, the pieces began to fall into place, preparations for a battle already looming on the horizon. Scene 88, The Gathering Storm. The sun dipped low over the skyline, casting long shadows in the community center's back room where the air hung heavy with anticipation. Bria stood by the wide-open window, the tang of rain-soaked concrete mingling with the faint aroma of fried plantains from the street vendor below. A storm was brewing, physically and metaphorically, as the horizon darkened, thick clouds rolling in like whispers of conflict. Bria adjusted the small stack of papers in front of her, the creases pressed deep into the paper, revealing how many times she'd gone over these figures. We're behind on our supplies. If the next shipment doesn't come in, we'll be scrambling, she said, her voice steady but threadbare as it masked turbulent worry. Akil leaned against the table, arms crossed, his brow knitted in concentration. The deep-set lines on his forehead spoke of a man wrestling with demons. Bria, do we really need to worry about supplies right now? We have bigger fish to fry, he replied, the weight of unsaid words lingering between them, as palpable as the humid air. What are you suggesting? That we just sit back and hope everything magically works out? Bria countered, her tone snapping like a taut wire. That's not how this works, Akil. He straightened, all casualness stripped away. And that's exactly why we're in this mess. You want to play superhero, fine, but don't drag me into your crusade if you can't see the bigger picture. I'm out there protecting you every day. His voice rose, defiance dancing in his dark eyes. Protecting me or controlling me? She shot back, her chest tightening. The room felt smaller, the air growing heavier with each heated exchange. The soft tapping of rain began against the window, punctuating the tension. Controlling? His accusation slapped at her pride. You think this is about control? Akil's voice softened unexpectedly, as if the storm outside matched the tempest in his soul. I'm trying to keep you safe. You push me away, but hell, I feel like I'm losing you to this fight. Bria's resolve weakened as emotion clouded the battle lines they had drawn. She stepped closer, the distance between them shifting, an electric charge simmering in the air. Losing me? You're the one hiding truths from me, Akil. You can't fathom how that makes me feel. She took a shaky breath, holding his gaze, daring him to back down. I'm not hiding anything, except maybe the truth about the job that put me on this path. Her voice cracked like thunder, a wave of vulnerability rising beneath her passion. The storm outside intensified, nature echoing their clash. That truth, that you orchestrated everything, and I'm just too blind to see it. The silence that followed was deafening, filled with unspoken confessions. Each breath that passed between them was a testament to the turmoil they fought against. Suddenly, Akil stepped closer, the tension giving way to a raw intensity that crackled in the space between them. I did it for you, he said, vulnerability seeping through the cracks of his bravado. To give you a chance to change the game, and maybe even to protect you from people like me. His voice was low, edged with a painful honesty. I know you think you're protecting me, Bria replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But I need the truth, Akil. I need to know you fully, not just the parts you choose to show. The storm answered in a gust of wind, rattling the windows as a flash of lightning illuminated the room. They were suspended in time, the soft drumming of rain creating a rhythm for their heartbeats. Akil reached out, fingertips brushing against Bria's arm in a gesture so tender it stole her breath away. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth envelop her, a safe harbor amidst the chaos. What if this is more dangerous than we can handle? She murmured, grappling with the depths of her trust, her heart racing. "Then we handle it together," Akil said, his voice firm yet gentle, locking eyes with her. The unyielding sincerity in his gaze was a balm for her bruised spirit. "You and me, we're stronger as a team." The storm outside roared louder, but in that moment, the noise faded, consumed by the flame igniting in the space between them. Bria stepped forward, the air around them thickening with unsaid words, bridging the gap of uncertainty. With one slow movement, he wrapped her in an embrace that promised safety and fire. "Together," she echoed, leaning into him, letting the tempest inside her simmer as hope ignited anew. As they stood, arm in arm, the world outside raged, but the storm had found its eye calm but brimming with uncharted territories ahead yet to explore. Scene 89. Emerging Rivals. The storm clouds roiled overhead, dark and heavy, mirroring the tension in the air at Akil's lavish penthouse. The chatter of the city, usually vibrant, echoed faintly outside as if the world itself was holding its breath. Inside, the mood was electric. "What's your plan with the Logans?" Akil's voice cut through the low hum of conversation, his eyes fixed on Bria as he leaned against the polished marble counter. He had a way of making even an offhand question feel like a challenge, and the energy in the room shifted abruptly. Bria, standing half-turned, rummaged through a stack of papers, her fingers brushing against the smooth, crisp sheets. She paused, glancing at him, her chest tightening, a mix of excitement and trepidation. "We can't just pretend they don't exist, Akil. They're dangerous. If we ignore them, it'll blow up in our faces." Across the room, the group of close friends and allies listened intently. Devan, a tall figure with an easy grin, chuckled dryly. "Sounds like someone's got a crush on the chaos." The laughter that followed broke the tension for a fleeting moment, but the unease returned swiftly. Bria shot Devan a look, but the amusement danced in her eyes. "Am I wrong? They're not just going to sit back and let us take over." She crossed her arms, her stature steady, defiant. "Sometimes ignorance is bliss," Malia, a sharp-witted woman with a knack for strategy, interjected. "But Bria's right. The Logans know we're a threat now." She met Bria's gaze, a flicker of admiration passing between them, equal parts worry and solidarity. "Great, so we're starting a war?" Akil replied, his voice laced with sarcasm, but his expression serious. "Not a war, a strategic takeover," Bria corrected, stepping forward, her confidence rising. "If we can draw them out, we'll know their move before they make it." "Just like chess, huh?" Devon teased, his grin widening, but he quickly stifled it when Akil threw him a dark look that could curdle milk. The door swung open abruptly, and Zuri, a fierce woman with a glowing presence, burst in, her breath labored. "They're here." The gravity of those 3 words silenced the room. "Who's here?" Akil straightened, concern etched across his features. "The Logans," Zuri said, scanning the faces in the room. "They're coming for the meet this evening." "Anyone else?" Akil asked, quickening his pace, the weight of his responsibilities evident in the crease of his brow. Zuri shook her head. "Just them," she replied tersely. The air thickened as Bria instinctively moved closer to Akil, feeling the heat radiating off him, mixing with a surge of adrenaline. Akil noticed and glanced down at her. "Stay behind me." His voice softened, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. "Always," she said, a ghost of a smile touching her lips, though her eyes held a flicker of fear. Amid the brewing storm of conflict, a flicker of intimacy sparked between them, almost imperceptible as they stood shoulder to shoulder. Akil faced the growing urgency of the situation, but the moment felt weighty, loaded with a longing that shone through the impending danger. "Let's get our stories straight," Akil directed, his tone becoming businesslike again. The others nodded, aware of the stakes, but then there's always room for a little humor in the chaos. "We should probably start with, 'We're not scared of you,'" Malia suggested, tilting her chin defiantly. "Yeah, as if they'll believe us after the last debacle," Devon laughed, folding his arms. "I think we need a more convincing lie." "Just admit we're scared," Zuri chimed in, her smile wide, which tilted the atmosphere ever so slightly back to ease, even in crisis. "The truth works on villains too," Bria chuckled lightly, but her heart raced. "Well, at least we'll know what they're really after in this meeting." Akil's gaze turned serious as he met Bria's eyes, their connection igniting once more, as if the world had narrowed down to just the 2 of them. The moment stretched, palpable with unspilled emotions. I'm going to keep you safe, Bria. I promise. She swallowed hard, nodding slowly, the sincerity of his vow resonating deep within her. I know. Just then, the distant sound of engines revving outside reverberated like a cue to the impending storm, threatening to break a call to arms. And within that charged silence, they leaned toward one another, drawn by an irresistible force, lips brushing and igniting a turmoil of warmth and courage. But the headlights danced ominously through the window, interrupting the moment as Akil and Bria pulled apart, both left panting for resolution in more ways than one. Game faces on, people, Akil said, regaining his composure, but neither he nor Bria could dismiss the unsettling thrill of their encounter, barely contained beneath the surface as danger loomed closer. Ready or not, here they come, Malia smirked, her words hanging in the air, thick with anticipation. And in the charged silence that followed, a new reckoning awaited. Scene 90, tracking the enemy. A storm brewed in the distance, dark clouds merging with the horizon as Bria's fingers danced over the keyboard. Surrounding her were stacks of papers and open files on the crime syndicates threatening their lives, neatly categorized and labeled, each holding pieces of a puzzle that could either save them or lead to disaster. The room buzzed with tension as she and Akil sat in the dim light streaming through the window, their faces etched with concentration. Bria, there's something you're not telling me, Akil said, his voice low yet insistent, slicing through the flicker of the screen. She looked up, forest green eyes catching the light as she steeled herself against an unexpected wave of vulnerability. I'm not hiding anything. Just trying to focus, she shot back, a hint of frustration lacing her tone. Focusing or dodging, you know I can see through that facade. He leaned forward, muscles taut, a visceral reminder of the urgency pressing down on them. As he spoke, she felt an electric tension ricochet between them, a band stretching taut, ready to snap. Fine, she replied, exasperated but unyielding. The Lestrange brothers are planning something big, and I think they're using the charity gala next week as a cover. It's not just another fundraiser. They're turning it into a front for an arms deal. A silence settled, thick and laden with consequences. Akil's jaw tightened, a bead of sweat trailing down the side of his temple. How do you know? She swiveled in her chair, the room an intimate cocoon despite the storm outside. I had a source, she started, hesitating, the words catching in her throat. She could feel his eyes boring into her, searching for the cracks. But I can't share their name. Bria. Just trust me, okay? She interjected, leaning forward. I wouldn't put us in danger if I wasn't sure. His gaze softened slightly, acknowledgement and frustration chiming in a delicate balance. He ran a hand through his curls, his thoughts racing. I want to, but we can't take any risks. Not now, not when we're surrounded by enemies. Bria could see him wrestling with the ever-present weight of loyalty and the need for control. It reminded her of how they had always walked that fine line together. Friendship intertwined with something deeper, something they were both still afraid to name. Suddenly the door swung wide open, and Tasha, Bria's childhood confidant and fierce ally, burst in, her hair a halo of frenetic energy. You two, she exclaimed, breathless. You won't believe what I just found out. The Lestrange brothers are definitely in bed with that new crew from Chicago. They're making moves, and I think they might have our location. Great, Bria sighed. Just what we needed. Hey, at least we're on their radar, right? Tasha said, her tone laced with sarcasm. I mean, less boring this way. Bria chuckled, despite the gravity of their situation. Yeah, because a life on the run is all the rage these days. Akil smirked, his shoulders relaxing slightly from the tension. Next time, they should hold the gala on a cliff. I hear that makes for a nice escape route. But then we won't have the cheapest wine from the corner store, Bria teased back, her heart lifting for an instant. Priority adjustments, right? The banter was a fleeting escape, but even amid the humor, the seriousness of their plans loomed large. Akil surveyed them both, determination hardening his features. Okay, so what's our move? We can't let them take the first shot. Create a distraction, Tasha suggested, spinning an elaborate plot of chaos. You two go in, stir the pot, and I'll work from the sidelines. That way, we gain intel without being the main course. That's risky, Bria responded, biting her lip in thought. But it could work. Akil nodded, his expression serious again. No one gets left behind. We go as a unit. Agreed? Agreed. Bria and Tasha chimed together, a pact sealing their fate. A moment of silence enveloped them, unified in purpose yet painfully aware of the darkness that clung close. Akil looked directly at Bria, the connection taut, a bridge of unsaid words ready to be crossed. Bria, if we do this. I know, she interrupted softly. We go all in. Let's make sure it's the last hand we play, he replied, a fiery resolve blazing in his eyes. Together, they were ready to face the storm bonded, not just by ambition, but by something deeper, pulsing beneath the surface like the thunder that rumbled outside. Scene 91, Emotions Unleashed. The war room, a dimly lit expanse within Akil's penthouse, buzzed with palpable tension. The walls were adorned with a sprawling map, dotted with markers and threads connecting potential threats and allies. Outside, rain pummeled against the glass, a relentless reminder of the storm brewing both outside and within the group gathered around the strategically placed table. Each figure bore the weight of unvoiced anxieties. The air tasted like ozone, electric and charged. Every moment we wait is another step toward disaster. We need to make a move now, Bria declared, her voice steady, yet behind her calmness lay a storm of confusion, anger, and an aching vulnerability. She grasped the edge of the table, her knuckles paling, as she scanned the room full of her allies, Eli, Karima, and Jai, each reflecting their own concerns in their faces. Akil, leaning casually against the far wall, considered her words, his expression inscrutable. Beneath the layers of his charming demeanor lay a brewing turmoil of his own. What you're proposing could endanger everything we've built, he responded, his tone measured but fraught with an underlying tension. We can't act recklessly just because it feels right. Recklessly? Bria shot back, her eyes now sparking with indignation. The room seemed to hold its breath as each word hung like a spark in dry grass. You think knowing when to act is reckless? You're not the only one with a stake here, Akil. Everyone needs to keep their heads cool, Eli interjected, interlacing his fingers as he leaned forward. We're all on the same side, right? Let's think rationally. Rational? Bria scoffed, her frustration morphing into something more visceral. I'm sick of hiding behind strategic play while our enemies dance around us. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, and neither should you all be. But we can't let emotions dictate our next steps, Akil said, stepping closer. Their eyes locked, an unspoken history crackling between them. Time slowed, and the chaos of the room faded into a distant echo. Is it my emotions you're worried about? Bria retorted, her voice quieter now, yet loaded with an intensity that captivated the attention of everyone in the room. Or is it your own? What are you really afraid of, Akil? Silence engulfed the space, thick and suffocating. The door creaked open, and Jai offered a nervous chuckle, flipping through a folder. How about we review the... No, Akil barked, causing Jai to freeze mid-sentence. The sharpness in his voice had an authority that cut through the static in the air. Akil pressed on, his gaze unwavering. This isn't just about the plan anymore, Bria. It's about us. Bria blinked, the revelation hitting her like a tidal wave. Us, what do you mean? He pushed himself away from the wall, his demeanor shifting as if an unseen anchor had lifted. Everything we've faced, this cat-and-mouse game with our lives, is wearing down on us. I can't just watch you throw yourself headfirst into the fray when I... Akil, she interrupted, stepping closer, her breath hitching in her throat. When I fight for what's right. You know that. And you could throw caution to the wind instead of playing it safe. A flicker of vulnerability crossed his features. You don't understand what's at stake. The future I see, it has you in it, but only if we play it smart. Oh, and here I thought you only had room for your power games, she shot back, her voice quivering with a mix of anger and something softer, more painful. Or did you only ever see me as a pawn? What? Bria. He hesitated, his frustration finally breaking into something more raw. I can't lose you to this. Not now. Not ever. The air between them shimmered with the weight of unsaid words, and pouring rain outside drowned the sounds of the world. Bria closed the distance, feeling the warmth radiating from him. Then stop playing games, she whispered, grabbing a fistful of his shirt and pulling him closer. Then let's... His words fell away as their lips nearly brushed, the intensity of the moment gripping them both like an unwritten promise. A sudden crash of thunder echoed through the room, shaking everything in its wake. With that, their mouths met in a fervent clash of emotions, a test of trust, yearning, and desperation. Each kiss poured out the chaos of their hearts, awakening every unspoken desire buried deep beneath the veneer of war strategy and emotional restraint. And just as suddenly as it began, it ended. They pulled away, breathless yet surrounded by the heavy silence that accompanied the storms of their hearts. "Bria, we shouldn't," he began, though the words felt weak against the truth of their moment. "Then let's face the storm together," she replied, her gaze unwavering, but honestly this time. Outside, the winds howled louder than the echoes of their newfound vulnerability, two souls entwined and ready to face their reckoning head-on. Scene 92. Fighting together. The tempest loomed overhead, dark clouds swirling like hounds of fate hunting down a wayward prey. Raindrops began to hammer the pavement of the abandoned warehouse, each thud echoing the turmoil within Bria Finch's chest. She shifted her weight, her heartbeat dancing between determination and dread. "Bria, if we're going to do this, we need to trust each other fully." Akil Amari's voice, low and ripe with urgency, cut through the growing storm. He stood a few steps away, muscles taut under the dark, drenched fabric of his shirt. Raindrops cascading down his jaw became rivulets of a restless spirit. "I'm telling you, I thought we were a team," she shot back, the fire of her words igniting the thick atmosphere. "But there are things you haven't told me, secrets you've been keeping, so how am I supposed to trust you? You think I want to carry this shadow alone?" Akil's eyes ignited, storm dark yet impossibly warm. "You think I'm hiding something because I enjoy it? It's about protection." "Protection?" she interrupted, shaking her head, water flinging from her hair like a wild creature. "Because you protected me so well that I almost walked into a trap I didn't even know existed?" "Enough!" Akil shouted, stepping closer, the tension thickening between them, as palpable as the rain-soaked air. "We're not here for this. We came to finish what we started, remember?" The clamp of his frustration mirrored her own, but fear flickered in her chest. "What if we don't make it? What if? Then we fight together. That's what matters." His voice softened, a wave crashing against the rocky shore of her doubt. "We hold each other up or we fall together." She studied him, the lines of sincerity etched into his brow, the unyielding resolve radiating from him. "Right, so let's do it then. Together." He stepped back, his lips quirking, something resembling a playful challenge in his gaze. "Let's show them they picked the wrong targets." Wind howled around them, rising to a ferocious crescendo as thunder growled in agreement. Akil raised a hand, a mix of strategist and warrior, signaling her to follow. They dashed toward the entrance, the weight of their unspoken fears swept aside momentarily by adrenaline. Within the shadowed depths of the warehouse, another battle loomed. Bria and Akil moved in tandem, glancing at each other like an orchestra, their unpracticed harmonies ready to resonate with fierce melody. He wordlessly gestured towards the flickering light behind a torn curtain. "On three," he whispered, his breath a soft cloud amidst the gusty air. "Like we practiced," she affirmed, a spark of the old camaraderie igniting between them. 1, 2. They entered like lightning, side by side. The interior exploded in chaos, rival gang members scattered among crates of illicit goods. Sensing their approach, one turned, eyes widening in recognition. It was enough to unleash pandemonium, women screaming and men shouting in half-formed battle cries. "Cover me," Akil ordered, lunging toward the nearest figure in black leather. Bria didn't hesitate. She flung herself sideways, using the nearest crate as makeshift cover. Gunfire erupted, punctuated by the splintering of wood around her. "Stay low," she shouted, her heart racing, the thrill of danger mixing with her loyalty to him. She couldn't shake the tension of what lay unspoken. They had bridged an unworthy past. The fear of betrayal still lingered thick in her throat, but survival pressed at the forefront now. With a strategic pivot, Akil swung around a crate, elbowing a gang member. They collided, a brutal dance spins and punches, skin and strike, sweat glistening, tension burning. The chemistry between them, once a reciprocation of secrets and weight, now sparked into an electrifying fight for their lives. "Nice move," Bria exclaimed mid-strike, breathlessly impressed as she darted past him, landing a swift kick that sent another henchman stumbling. Just a warm-up, he grunted, dodging a fist aimed at his ribs. Together, they became a whirlwind of strategic movements and sharp glances, flowing like water under thunderous skies. But amidst the clash of bodies and the shouts of confusion, Akil's gaze caught hers with an intensity that shattered a barrier between them that she'd believed could never bend. "We're better together," he yelled, daring her to embrace the truth their intensity had promised all this time. Her heart thundered in rhythm with the storm outside. With newfound purpose, she rallied, their compatibility in love and combat asserting itself. Whatever lay hidden between them could not fracture their resolve now. It only served as a foundation. "Then let's finish this," she declared, a smile breaking through the chaos, a promise that their fight transcended the moment, a vow of unity that wouldn't just shatter darkness but split it open with light. Scene 93. Dangerous Liaisons. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes of the dimly lit loft. Bria stood near the expansive glass, her heart pounding in her chest as rays of steel-gray light from the stormy sky flickered, casting shadows that danced across the room. The air was thick, not just with moisture from the brewing storm, but also with the electric tension that crackled between her and Akil. She could hear the distant rumble of thunder, but it felt far less chaotic than the tempest raging inside her. Bria turned away from the view, her eyes narrowing at Akil, who lounged casually on the plush sofa. His posture relaxed, but the tension in his jaw was unmistakable. The way he leaned back suggested confidence, yet his fingers drummed an anxious rhythm on the armrest. "Can't you at least pretend to consider what I'm saying?" she demanded, her voice slicing through the room like a knife, thick with irritation and concern. Akil glanced up, his eyes sharp and glinting, betraying a flicker of something deeper. "Bria, you're still seeing shadows where there are none. This is not a fairy tale. It's business." "Business?" she echoed incredulously, folding her arms tight against her chest. "It's a web of deceit, Akil. You can't just dismiss it." He stood, muscles taut underneath his fitted shirt as he approached her, stepping close enough for her to catch the faint smell of his cologne, mixed with a hint of sweat, a reminder of the urgency of their situation. "I didn't make the rules, Bria. You know that." His gaze slid down to her hands, clenched and trembling. "The world we're in, you're going to have to toughen up. Or maybe find a way to get out of it." She took a small step back, her resolve wavering. Thunder cracked loudly, resonating like an ominous bell tolling their differing paths. Bria felt a hollow ache blossom in her chest. She wanted him to see her for who she was, not just a player in his dangerous game. "I thought you'd protect me from all this. Instead, you're asking me to join it." Akil reached out and brushed a lock of hair behind her ear, a tender gesture that sent a shiver down her spine. "I'm trying to protect you by including you. You see this as dark. I see it as power." "Power isn't everything," she shot back, her voice trembling. "What about loyalty? What about standing for something?" "Loyalty," Akil scoffed, his eyes narrowing. "You think loyalty is a shield? I've seen loyalty get people killed, Bria." The sincerity in his voice sent heat rushing through her, igniting the tumult of conflicting emotions that had become second nature in their relationship. As Bria opened her mouth to retort, a sudden knock at the door shattered the charged moment, and both turned, eyes wide. Akil's expression shifted from heated to wary in a heartbeat. "Stay behind me." "What? No, just trust me." He moved with predatory grace to the door, each step precise, his body tense like a coiled spring. Bria chewed on her lip, frustration bubbling beneath her skin. She wanted to fight, to argue, yet the uncertainty of the approaching figure loomed like an unwelcome shadow. He opened the door a crack, and the figure stood half-shrouded in the stormy light. All she could see was the silhouette. She couldn't make out a face. "I have information," the stranger called out, the voice muffled but urgent. Akil glanced back at Bria, uncertainty flitting across his features. "Get behind the couch." "What?" "No, I won't hide." But he pressed forward, his hand pushing the door wider, revealing a figure cloaked in dark fabric, soaked from the rain. "We need to talk now," the stranger insisted, stepping into the apartment, barely waiting for an invitation. Bria felt her pulse quicken, the tension morphing into a sharp spike of anxiety. "What is this about?" she asked, directing her frustration at the intruder. "Everything you thought you knew. the stranger replied cryptically, glancing at Akil, whose face had grown like stone. In that split second, betrayal loomed, thick as the approaching storm. Clouds were gathering more than just rain. They were gathering revelations that threatened to fracture everything: trust, love, and the fragile alliance they had built. "You said you'd protect me," Bria whispered, her voice barely a thread. Akil's eyes were stormy, reflecting nothing but secrets held too tightly. "I will," he vowed, though uncertainty dripped from his voice like the rain beating against the world outside. Scene 94, Loyalty Tested. The storm brewed ominously outside, wind howling like a restless spirit, but within the soft-lit confines of Akil's private study, a different kind of tension crackled in the air. Bria held a glass of bourbon, its amber hue reflecting the flickering light from the fireplace, though she couldn't remember taking it. She focused on the rich honey scent wafting from the glass, but it did little to calm her racing heart. Secrets, half-truths, and the weight of betrayal plugged the room like molten iron. "Bria, we need to make a decision." Akil leaned against the heavy mahogany desk, his expression dangerously calm, yet the storm in his eyes hinted at the chaos within.